Okay, imagine this. You land, blindfolded, maybe in Almaty, maybe Nur-Sultan, right in the heart of Kazakhstan. Take the blindfold off. You might genuinely wonder if you'd somehow teleported between, I don't know, East Asia and Eastern Europe, moment to moment. The range of appearances you see walking down the street is just, oh, it's stunning. You'll see people with features we typically call East Asian. You know, almond eyes, darker hair, high cheekbones, and then right beside them, someone who could easily pass for Russian or Ukrainian. Maybe striking blue eyes, lighter hair, taller build. It's a whole spectrum. But here's the thing. This isn't just some random fluke. It's deeply tied to Kazakhstan's history, its geography. So today, we're doing a deep dive. We're looking at the history, the anthropology, the genetics to really unpack why. Why this incredible human mosaic. Our mission is to connect those thousands of years of movement right to the faces you'd see today. Okay, let's get into it.
It's absolutely fascinating, and you put your finger right on it. The land itself basically wrote this diversity into the people. I mean, Kazakhstan is literally the geographic heart of Eurasia. There's no way around it. It was the bridge, the essential crossroads between East and West, always has been. So inevitably, it became this melting pot for basically every major migration, every nomadic wave moving between, say, China, the Persian world, and Europe for millennia.
And we're talking deep history here, not just the last couple of centuries.
Oh, absolutely, millennia. Think about the sheer scale of movement across those steppes. You had powerful nomadic groups, mostly Turkic peoples, Mongols, pushing west from the east. But they weren't moving into an empty space. They were constantly interacting with really influential Indo-European populations already there or nearby, like the Scythians, for instance, those ancient Iranian horse riders. Their territory stretched right across these steppes. Their DNA, plus later Persian influences from the south, they laid down some of the earliest West Eurasian genetic markers. So the mixing started way, way back, long before any Slavic groups arrived.
Right. And then layered on top of that deep history, you have the more, let's say, concentrated movements in recent centuries, the Tsarist expansions, the Soviet era, huge numbers of Russians, Ukrainians, Germans, others moving in. That must have added a really significant layer.
A very dense final layer, exactly. And all these layers, they leave a kind of genetic fingerprint. We can actually see it now, thanks to genetic studies. Research around 2017 really clarified this. It showed that, on average, a person of Kazakh ethnicity carries about 60% East Eurasian ancestry and roughly 40% West Eurasian ancestry.
Wow, 60-40. That's almost perfectly balanced for a whole nation.
Yeah.
Does that imply a sort of constant cultural redefinition, being this blend?
I think it implies the identity is the blend. That balance point is really what makes Kazakhstan stand out. It's one of the most genetically diverse nations in Central Asia, for sure. And, you know, connecting this to the bigger picture, that 60-40 split isn't even uniform across the country.
Okay, so it varies by region.
Definitely. The genetics map pretty closely onto the geography. So if you look at people in eastern Kazakhstan, closer to Mongolia and China, their genetic profile shows a stronger tilt towards that Mongolic and Turkic heritage. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, geographically.
But then you go west, towards the Volga, towards the Caucasus, and people there consistently show a higher percentage of those European and Caucasian genetic components.
So the history and the geography are literally written into the people's DNA, region by region. That 60-40 average is fascinating, but okay, how does that 40% West Eurasian part actually show up visibly? Because that's what really grabs your attention as an outsider.
Right. The visual manifestation. Let's start with eye color, because as you said, the contrast there can be really striking.
Yeah, definitely.
That centuries-long mixing means a surprisingly high proportion of Kazakhs have light eyes. Sources consistently point to somewhere between 30 and 35% having blue, green, or hazel eyes.
30 to 35%. That's huge for a Central Asian nation.
It really is, and it's living history right there in their eyes. You have the typical darker alleles coming in from the East Asian and Mongol side, but then you have that steady input of lighter alleles from the ancient Indo-Europeans, like the Scythians, the Persians, and then much later the Slavic settlers. So it's completely normal, actually, within the same family to see siblings with dramatically different eye colors. One might have deep brown eyes, tracing back to the steppe ancestors.
And the other could have bright blue eyes, reflecting that whole Eurasian mix.
Exactly. It's the blend personified. And skin tone follows a similar pattern of regional variation. It ranges quite dramatically from, light beige tones to a richer golden brown. Anthropological studies actually put numbers on this, which is pretty interesting. They use the melanin index.
Okay, what did they find?
Well, northern and western Kazakhs tend to have lower melanin scores, average around 28.5 to 30.2.
And what does that mean in comparison?
It means their average skin tone is closer to what you might find in people from southern Russia or maybe parts of Eastern Europe.
Right, and the South.
Southern Kazakhs average higher, more like 34.8 to 36.1. That's closer to the averages for Uzbeks or Kyrgyz people.
So the difference in average skin tone between North and South Kazakhstan is almost like comparing two different countries.
It's pretty stark, yeah.
Yeah.
And hair color and texture fit right into this pattern, too. Okay, so maybe 70% have the straight black or very dark brown hair, often associated with Mongolic heritage. That's the majority.
But not the whole story.
Not at all. You've got a significant minority, maybe 10 to 15%, with naturally light brown or even blonde hair.
And I remember reading about red hair, too.
Yeah. A smaller group, maybe 3 to 4%, carry those red or auburn tones. And again, it's much more common in the North and the West. It ties directly back to that Slavic and, deeper still, that older Indo-European influence.
Okay, so eyes, skin, hair.
Mm-hmm.
What about overall build? Height, body structure?
Same story, really. Kazakhstan kind of sits in the middle, globally speaking, for average height. But again, the regional split tells you a lot. Men in the north average taller, around 176 centimeters. That's about 5'9.5".
And researchers link that too.
Both the stronger Slavic genetic input in the north and probably dietary factors as well.
Okay. And in the south?
Southern men, where the Turkic and Mongol roots are often genetically stronger, average a bit shorter, closer to 172 centimeters, maybe 5'7.5".
It's a noticeable difference if you travel across the country.
Absolutely. And even body builds can reflect these different ancestral lines and adaptations. In the West, near the Caucasus, you often see broader, more robust frames. Contrast that with the classic physique from the eastern steppes, often leaner, more wiry builds. Historically, that was probably better suited for nomadic life, endurance, agility on horseback.
So every aspect of physical appearance seems to tell this story of mixing and regional adaptation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, yeah, facial structure is maybe the most immediate giveaway of this blend. Just looking at people's faces in a crowd, you can almost see that historical push and pull between East and West Eurasian features.
How so? What are the key differences?
Well, in the eastern regions, you'll see more prevalence of traits linked to Mongolic ancestry, things like the epicanthic fold in the eyelid, higher or broader cheekbones, sometimes flatter nasal bridges.
Right.
Then, as you move west, you start seeing more traits associated with Indo-European or Slavic lines, straighter noses, maybe more prominent, more angular jawlines.
And the sources mention this even varies between the traditional Kazakh clans or tribes.
Yes, absolutely. Anthropologists have noted this. Certain lineages, like the Nayman or Kare clans, for example, are known to have joined the Kazakh Confederation later, often linked to Mongol expansions. And generally, they tend to show more East Asian facial features.
But others.
But contrast that with clans like the Arjun or Kipchak. Their histories within the steppe are often older and more complex, involving mixing with Persian groups, other West Eurasians. So among those groups, it's much more common to find people with very mixed features, or sometimes features that look quite European. Your clan affiliation can literally shape your face.
It's incredible. It makes you picture that scene you mentioned, like a market in Shymkent.
Exactly. Imagine that. You could have a tall guy with light blue eyes haggling over prices right next to a woman whose features, maybe the high cheekbones, the shape of the eyes, the thick black hair, seem to come straight from the era of the Golden Horde. All within the same space. That concentration of difference is Kazakhstan. It's a living mosaic.
And you can imagine this kind of visible diversity must spark some conversations, maybe even debates, about what it means to be Kazakh today, about national identity.
Oh, absolutely. It fuels very deep, very real discussions. And the Soviet legacy is huge here. Remember, at one point, nearly a third of the population was Slavic. The amount of intermarriage that happened then really blurred the lines for generations. It created huge numbers of people who just don't fit neatly into one box or the other.
So what does that internal debate look like?
Well, it's nuanced. On one side, you have some people who feel the true Kazakh look, the Arkiv identity, should emphasize the Mongolic and Turkic heritage. They might see the European admixture as, well, maybe diluting something essential.
Understandable. But the other side?
The counter-argument is gaining ground, I think. It says that the blend is the identity, that being this bridge between East and West isn't a dilution, it's Kazakhstan's unique strength. It is the national character.
That tension must play out in culture, too, like in media representation.
Definitely. You saw it in the Soviet era, where media sometimes seemed to prefer featuring lighter-skinned Kazakhs, maybe associating them with the modernity the state wanted to project.
Does that bias linger?
It does, to some extent, and it leads to ongoing debates today. Should Kazakh media promote looks that lean more European? Or should the focus be on celebrating traditional features, the sun-weathered look of the steppe nomads, the culturally significant thick black braids? It's really a debate about heritage versus assimilation, playing out visually.
So, wrapping this part up, how does all this complexity affect how the rest of the world sees Kazakhstan?
Well, it creates a lot of ambiguity, frankly. There isn't one single, easily recognizable Kazakh look for outsiders, so people get mistaken all the time. Mistaken for Russian, for Mongol, for Turkish, even people from the Caucasus sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you see this reflected perfectly in their most famous public figures. Just think about it. You have Gennady Golovkin, the boxer, world famous, light eyes, features that many would call European.
Right, Triple G.
Then you have Dimash Kudaibergen, the singer. Huge global following, darker hair, those sharp, high cheekbones that feel very Central Asian.
Totally different looks.
Completely different, yet both are absolutely, undeniably Kazakh. And they both spark those conversations, both at home and abroad. What is the Kazakh look? Who represents it best?
It really drives home the point that this isn't just random chance.
Not at all. It shows how millennia of history, the Silk Road trade, the Mongol conquest, Russian colonization, Soviet resettlement, every major Eurasian event has left its mark, compressed right into the DNA of this one nation. The diversity isn't a quirk. It's the inevitable outcome of being at the heart of it all.
Which brings us nicely to a final thought here. Kazakhstan fundamentally doesn't have one look. That diversity, that incredible range we've been talking about, that is the defining national trait. It's all those centuries of history layered right into the people's genes, showing up in every possible shade of skin, hair, and eye color imaginable in one population.
Precisely. And maybe the final thought to leave everyone with is this. If Kazakhstan's strength and identity is this blend, whose face truly represents the nation best? Is it the tall, light-eyed person from the north, reflecting that Slavic and European influence? Is it the person from the south, with darker features carrying the legacy of the Turkic and Mongol nomads? Or is the truest face of Kazakhstan found in all those countless people who fall somewhere perfectly, fascinatingly in between? Something to think about.
A really powerful question to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the incredible genetic and cultural mosaic that is Kazakhstan. We really encourage you to keep exploring these fascinating ideas about national identity, history, and how it's all written in our genes.